All right, we are back on Play It Forward, and today we have Manuel Trotta, filmmaker, writer, director. We're going to be talking about La Piñata de Marcel, and Manuel was nominated by Marianne Amalinks. Manuel, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to the audience that is watching us.
Yeah, the two guys sitting there, we appreciate you on the show and adding your friends to it. Manuel, uh, I saw the film, and it is a very original take on coming of age story that is a little earlier than you might think of a typical coming of age story. Um, Before we dive into the questions, can you set up the film for us as well as introducing yourself, please?
First of all, my name is Manuel Trotta. I'm a filmmaker based in LA for the last 13 years. I've been writing, directing, and acting on my own projects, and this is my second short film. The name of the short film is La Piñata de Marcel, or in English, Marcel's Piñata. And it's a story about a little boy who befriends his superhero themed piñata a day prior to his birthday party, sort of forgetting that the ritual itself is smashing the piñata to pieces. So, what will happen? We'll have to see.
We have to see. Manuel, did you act in the movie as well?
Yeah, I play the father.
Oh man, hey, great job. I didn't put it together.
Yeah,
You did a great job as a dad. That's awesome.
thank you so much.
So like I said, it was a really unique film. You set it up in terms of like, yes, it's a young kid, he gets a piñata, but the background of the story is so important. It's a kid, his dad's kind of dorky, the kid's kind of a loner. He doesn't have many friends. He really has a crush on this really young girl who's very sweet, and it's a sweet, innocent crush. And his dad really wants him to be friends with all the other kids and hang out, but it's not really working. And he has a birthday party, and the dad invites all the kids to come to the party, and they come, and the kids are playing together, but he's left out and he's ostracized. And he has this sweet little moment where he connects with this girl, and she seems to like him, and everything's going well. And then it's time for the piñata. And of course, the piñata is his superhero fantasy persona. He is obsessed with the superhero, everyman, this amazing person who saves the victims and in superhero fashion slays the villains. So this is who this kid imagines himself to be as a loner. He's totally stuck in his imagination, and here he is, he gets this gorgeous piñata from his dad. I mean, it is just this lifelike thing. And of course he does not, I mean, it's his buddy. He gets it as an early birthday present. He sleeps with it. He's just, the last thing he wants to do is to destroy it. And so he comes to the moment where he's pressured by all these forces, and his poor father, who's also getting abused and kind of made fun of by these parents, and who just wants his son to be happy like any father. And here it is, the moment where everybody expects something of this event. They expect the piñata to be hit, broken, and the candy to fly. And of course, in the child's mind, this is his most precious possession. Um, and he is getting pressured to break it. Did I leave anything out?
No, no,
Pretty
I
good.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, so exploring wonderful themes of manhood, of individuality, of strength, of courage, of conformity, in a very novel way. I think before one thing I, as a viewer, really want to understand culturally, what is the significance of the piñata? I didn't grow up with piñatas. I know it from an American perspective, like, okay, you hang it up, candy falls out. Um, is there more of a cultural relevance to it? in Spanish countries or wherever it originated. I don't even know if it's, Mexico, Brazil. Where can you fill us in?
Yeah, so it depends on the country. So like Mexican piñata tradition is going to be different than, I don't know, Colombian or Venezuelan or Brazilian. If you go down south, like Argentina or Chile or Uruguay, they don't usually do the whole piñata thing. So it really changes.
Mm,
Um, to me, it was an opportunity to talk about something a little bit more profound because I know that for a lot of, you know, people, for a lot of boys and girls, the piñata itself has been a little bit traumatic because sometimes the piñata, instead of being like an abstract figure, it's your superhero or the Little Mermaid or a princess from Disney or something. So I think that sometimes fathers can be a little bit naive that, I'm gonna give this piñata, the hero for my kid, but in the end, it's a very violent sort of ritual. So when the kid is maybe 5, 4, 6 years old, maybe he doesn't quite understand it. But as they get older, I think they start getting anxious about this moment because it's a very brutal and very visual moment for them. I saw this like folkloric expression as an opportunity for me to talk about something that I wanted to talk about, in this case, a boy that was hypersensitive. I think that relates to most of us, filmmakers and artists as we grew up. He grows up um, thinking very differently, feeling very differently. There's a constant reminder with him and the binoculars that that's the way he sees life. He sees life with another type of lens, with another perspective. So he doesn't really fit in. His other friends are starting to grow up, are starting to mingle with little girls as well, and he's stuck with superheroes and the fantasy. And the reason he's stuck with the superheroes and the fantasy is because he doesn't have any tools to handle or to deal with reality. So that's like it's a space for him that is it's a safe space for him. So in his fantasy world, he's the hero. He's the person who saves the day. But in reality, he's a kid that is being bullied, that is not taken into account, that is very lonely. And his role model, that is his father, is not quite the role model that he needs. He's a father that is a very good and nice person, but as you said, he sort of surrendered himself to the standard of society, of what society expects from you. And without knowing, the father is doing that to the boy. He's trying to make him fit. The boy, loves to be in costume, loves to play the superhero, and the father is constantly telling the little boy it's time to grow up. Um, so getting back to the question, I think the whole piñata ritual to me was a very visual way of telling a story about how you have to smash your identity in order to grow up as society wants you to grow up. Because society tells you, you have to kill that person in order to become a grown man. There is no gray areas. There is no way of, staying in touch with your inner child, with your fantasy. You just have to smash that to pieces. So I think it's layers. The first layer is smashing literally a piñata and what it means. The second layer is smashing his hero. So it's the connection that he's had for the last couple of days and couple of years regarding that superhero. And lastly is his identity. He's smashing his identity.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant construct. And it's even for me feels more deeply. I mean, I think identity certainly sums it up, but within that identity, there's something unique and special and something personal and innocent and heroic. There's something heroic, these heroic ideals that need to be smashed and compromised in order to fit in, and that's such a powerful message that I think all of us can relate to at some point in our lives. We typically are either the heroes or villains in our own stories until perhaps we can overcome or mature beyond that identity of ourselves as having to idealize or heroify or vilify ourselves. But it is something that we all probably have grown through at a different stage in our times, and we heroify ourselves in order to feel good about ourselves. And this is certainly what's going on with this kid. In your personal experience, you know, now growing up, how did you come to this story? How were how were these forces played out in your own life?
Well, the short, it's pretty much based on my own life. So it's very there's a huge reference on my own childhood. I was very sensitive. I was some way in a lot of pain because I thought I was weird. I thought I didn't fit in. And I was obsessed with superheroes back in the 80s when superheroes were not as big as they are today. I would dress up as a superhero every day to go to school.
Oh,
So
wow.
that, yeah, that was crazy. So,
And
and
your parents let you do that.
yeah, my mom was like, I think she understood I was having a hard time. My parents were separating, were getting divorced. But yeah, she just had to like convince the teachers because back then we used uniforms, and I was one day Zorro, one day Superman, one day Batman.
Mm,
And I think I was trying to find that father figure, that role model, that
mm,
protection.
mm,
So you said it earlier, there's a lot of talk about identity. Who is the kid behind the mask? Because he's hiding something. We all are hiding something in society, right? We are all wearing masks every day. In his case, he's wearing a mask very literally, but he's trying to hide everything that is perceived as weak and trying to be very upfront about what people think is strong. So I was obsessed with superheroes. I was very, very sensitive. Um, the whole piñata thing didn't happen to me. That was, part of the fiction to make it dramatic, to make it coming of age. But I was also a kid that didn't want to grow up. I saw adulthood as something like very bizarre and I don't know, something cold and something stiff. I just didn't see the joy in being an adult. Thankfully, I think, my parents and my family raised me in a manner that I didn't destroy my identity. So I grew up, I became a man, but I didn't lose touch with my inner child.
you didn't lose touch. That's beautiful, man. And very rare and just, a testament to yourself and your family. Um, because it takes both to stay true to yourself as well as to have the environment that supports that. So what a blessing, and having that experience that so many of us don't, whether we sell out and conform, or the environment doesn't support us, or both. Whatever it is, having the experience that you've had, really being able to live it and then process it in such a deep way, in such a profound way, where you're able to, really dramatically bring up those two forces right up against one another, and show the strain of each. And something's got to break, right? So it's either the child or the piano, and
Exactly.
and perhaps both, right? So to that breaking point, how do we as people, whether it's, a masculine and heroic theme or a feminine heroic theme, I mean, they're both played out. Um, how do we as individuals, and it in the different stages in our life, how do we stay as true as we can to ourselves? And when we haven't stayed true to ourselves, how do we go on with that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I have like the right answer for that. I think it's something like super personal. In my case, I believe in questioning everything. Um, if you exercise uh the questioning action, questioning, why am I not happy? Why am I living here? Why don't I like doing math? If you start asking yourself questions, you begin to understand yourself. And the more you understand yourself, I think, um, that you're more at peace within yourself and with the world. So to me, it's fundamental for every person. You don't have to be an artist or a filmmaker to always be asking yourself, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Is there a choice? Is there a different way? That could be the food you're eating, the job you're working at, the path you're taking, the girlfriend or boyfriend or husband. I think that is really, really important. And to me, I am very concerned about how society lacks that questioning. I believe we take everything sort of for granted, and we just take it as it is, and that's the way it set out to be, and this is the status quo, and it shouldn't be. And I think that that's what art tries to do. They try to talk about subjects that people find difficult to get into, so people may reflect on that. um, so I think that's my own view on that. It's always questioning, always asking yourself why this and not that, and am I good? Am I bad? I think especially with boys and now with men, there's like a taboo about the men that are in touch with their feelings, and that's one of the subjects I talk about in the movie. So it's not okay for a man to cry. Men have to man up, right? They have to be strong, and they have to be decisive, and I think that society has put us in this sort of box that we need to, handle ourselves and express ourselves. And I think we're repressing a lot of our feelings. And I think it should be normal that a man, cries or talks about their feelings, because the more they suppress and the more they repress, the more violent and the more evil we become in this world. And I think everything goes back to the childhood, right? I think that if you start really early on asking yourself questions, allowing yourself to feel without any guilt, without seeing yourself as someone weak, then you have a lot more chance of growing up, actually, even as a tougher person, because I think that it's all related, right? So yeah, asking yourself questions and allowing you to feel.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, awareness is certainly, key. It's the beginning. It's literally the key that opens the door to understanding and self-knowledge. And, where you finished was, I mean, we've gone through this kind of exploration of strength. I mean, there's such a bit, what is strength as a person? And a lot of it seems to be a stoicism, traditionally. And now it's, changing, and we are, you and I, society, and we have that power to reframe the lens, as you've done with your film. And so, you ended on, I think, a really critical point, which is allowing ourselves to feel without judging ourselves as weak. Now,
Yeah,
how I think you got there partly by saying, okay, well, I'm exploring, why would I feel weak if I'm emotional? Why,
yeah.
where is that idea coming from? And do I agree with that idea? Is that one idea I buy into? Um, I think, reflecting on the movie and the meaning of the movie and the ideas that are in it, they're so universal, and this concept of strength and being a strong person, and what does it mean to be a strong person? And, you've kind of laid out this foundation of independent thinking. You've got to be able to think for yourself and to those independent conclusions as a strong person. Um, a certain amount of self-compassion, with regards to, I'm human. I can process feelings that are sad and express tears in a way. That's certainly a very important thing to come to as a person, a man or a woman. Um, I'm really just pushing at, here's this little boy, here we are in his shoes, and we've come up against this moment where we get we get the candy. We can get the candy of society. We can get maybe the candy, the girl, the friends, the this, the that, and all we have to do is play the game.
Mhm.
And we really want this toy. We really want the fruits of whatever it is that the game, but the game is compromising our morality, right? And the game is compromising who we believe we are. And so, um, in that moment of crisis, where we really want that thing, but it's going to steal our soul,
Mm.
um, how do we stay strong? And if we
Um,
don't, how do we recover our soul?
yeah. Um, I I think the whole it goes back to how we define strength, right? So I think strength for me is going to be completely different as strength, that somebody else thinks. To me, being in touch with your feelings and knowing who you are and crying if you have to, that is strength, and asking for help. But there are many people that may see that as a sign of weakness. So in the end, I think it's really personal. This is what I believe in. This is what has helped me in my life to get to the point where I'm at. Um, and I think to me, it's very important. So the next step after asking yourself question to me is rebellion, right? You don't have to accept everything that society tells you to do, or your family or your friends. You have a choice. There are going to be sacrifices and compromises, but you do have a choice. And well, I don't know if all of us in the world, because I know that there are many people who really don't have choices. We're going through really tough situations, but most of the people, I think, they have choices. Um, and I think that it's a matter of, again, asking yourself questions and rebelling against what you don't feel is right. Um, and sort of like doing justice for yourself. How? do you recover if you don't do it? I think just asking yourself questions. I've been in that position a lot in my life where I
One is
made
that
a
where you didn't do it? You didn't do the
I
right
didn't
thing?
I didn't do the right thing or I did do it or I did something I don't know I didn't think of, but then I reflected on it. And then I was like, okay, this was a mistake. I was trying to be someone I'm not. And I've done that a lot. I've made so many mistakes. Uh, and I think mistakes are fundamental for us human beings, but it's very important to be responsible for those mistakes and reflect on them. Like, why did I do it? Was it pressure? Was it because I wanted to impress a girl? Um, so yeah, I think I don't think there's gonna be like a super wise person that is always going to make the best choice in their lives. But I think there are moments. So this short film, it's a glimpse of that moment in your life that is a very, very fragile moment, right? So I'm not gonna give away the ending, but what I wanted to reflect
Well,
on
you
was
didn't even give away the ending of the movie, so
yeah, exactly.
I mean,
So
come on.
so so that was the intention, right? Like so you can ask yourself, what's the picture you have in your head? And it's really interesting because I've been asking a lot of people that have watched the film, and it's like split 50-50. Some
Does he
people
or
think,
does he not?
yeah,
Mhm.
and I think it all depends on the personality. It all depends on how a person sees the film. And the great thing that happened is that we started a conversation. Like, well, did he not? Why? And I think that was the intention. So
Of
I'm
course, of
hoping
course.
it came across.
I'd be surprised if you have an opinion on did he or did he not.
I do have an opinion. Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I always knew what would happen, and that's one of the things that I tried to portray in the film, which is a tone shift. So the film begins like very lightly, very almost like comedic, very, and there's like a tone shift sort of in the middle of the film, and it starts slowly going to like a very dark place. So I love that genre. I think that a dramatic comedy it's very intentional because the audience can sort of relax and they're like, oh, well, this is very easygoing. And now when they're relaxed, you can send the message with a lot of strength.
Capture, go for the jugular.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um, Manuel, thank you for that. I think it's really important to be honest about how we all make mistakes and how to recover from when you do make a mistake. And there's no doubt that all of us have um, a belief system, and when we go against it, it creates pain for ourselves. Manuel, since you made this movie, how have you been changed as a person?
How have I been changed?
By making this
Um,
film.
Let me think. I think that actually shooting the film and directing kids, that actually gave me a lot of information that I sort of lost in the way. I don't have kids on my own yet. So when I was like dealing with kids that age, I started remembering what was my childhood like. And I think remembering all that in a good way and remembering that, even as a child, it's not easy. It's not easy fitting in. It's not easy, dealing with grown-ups. Um, I sort of, yeah, I had like an inner dialogue with my, inner child. And I think that is something that is very important to all of us and sort of to forget and sort of to forgive many things that we did that we weren't very happy to and then that's sort of like the personal side. the professional side or the filmmaker side, I think this film was a step up from my previous one called 𝘗𝘂 or The Astronaut. It was basically the same no, like well, I also wrote, directed, and acted. It was also about a father and a son, but it was a completely different theme. And this one, it had kids, and it was set in the 80s, and there was a lot of fantasy and visual effects. So to me, there was a lot of learning in that. It was much more ambitious for me. So I think personal and professional wise, it was a very um yeah, it was a very important experience that made me grow.
Awesome, man. Well, it's a beautiful movie, very well written and
Thank
directed.
you.
Nice job in the end. It was great. Manuel Trotta, check it out, guys. The film is La Piñata de Marcel. Filmmaker, writer, director. Manuel, thanks for being on the show. You were nominated again by Marianne Emma Links. Thank you so much, Marianne. And until next time, guys, here on Play It Forward. All right, Manuel, peace. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye bye.